Good evening and welcome to Talking Point. I'm your host, Dr. Corey Anim-Wright, coming to you live from the studios of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation in Accra. We come to you live this and every Sunday with issues of national concern and engage you in discussions for informed decision making. We're also streaming live on GBC Ghana Online, on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and as always, we welcome those listening to us on radio at Unique 95.7. Talking Point is brought to you tonight in partnership with ATL, who are sponsoring my outfit. The fabric provided by ATL was custom made by Hey Looks Unisex Fashion, located at the Palm Wine Junction on Gifford Road. The cost of living allowance COLA is once again back in the news. On Monday, July 4th, 4 teacher unions began a nationwide strike to force home their demands over payment of the cost of living allowance. 3 days later, on July 7th, the National Labour Commission issued a statement requesting that the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, quote, engage the aggrieved teacher unions immediately upon receipt of this correspondence to negotiate settlement of their grievances within 7 days and furnish the Commission with a report upon completion, end quote. The striking unions are the Ghana National Association of Teachers, GNAT, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, and the Teachers and Educational Workers Union, TEWU, and the final one is the Coalition of Concerned Teachers, Ghana. Stay with us tonight as we discuss the nationwide strike, the timing, and its impact on teaching across the country. We encourage you to join in tonight's discussion by sending in your WhatsApp messages during our show to 055-744-6429. With me for tonight's discussion is in the studio the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Mr. Thomas Musah. Welcome.
Thank you.
And via Zoom, we have Mr. Austin Gamey. He's a labor consultant. Good evening, Mr. Gamey. So let me start with you, Mr. Musah, in the studio. Taking a decision for strike action is never easy. So talk to us about some of the reasons behind why the 4 unions felt that this decision was the only one that they could make at the time.
Okay. So thank you very much, my sister. Good evening to yourself and to all the viewers. It's important for us to understand why people join unions, and particularly a reference must be made to Article 24(3) of the Constitution of Ghana. It is clearly stated that each and everyone has the right to join a union of his or her choice for the protection of the economic and social interest. Having said that, at any point in time, workers feel that when there is an issue that borders on issues of their very livelihood and their interest, and not only in terms of in the area of the economy, but also the social aspect, the unions to which they belong must be able to communicate and articulate those concerns. And having said this, you will recall that when we negotiated for the 2021 and 2022 respectively, the base pay, we went in for 4% and 7%, 4% for 2021 and then 7% for 2022. Since that time, the labor front has not known peace, particularly the union leaders, because the workers feel that if we have gone in for 4%, what else is left? What else is left? What again can they, what exactly will they be able to do with this money? Regardless of all the explanation we gave, that we reluctantly went in for this, not because we wanted to. I can tell you on authority, our offices and all that were locked up. So with this particular issue at the background, members even have named us 4%. They call us 4%. Me, like when they see me, they call me 4% as a reminder of what happened in 2021, 2022. Having said this, it's important to also appreciate the fact that we recently we held what we call the Business Investment Forum at the GNAT headquarters. It emerged that the Ghanaian worker is one of the least paid in the sub-region. And for that matter, it also raises concern, because if the person is not well paid, if the person is not well paid in the sub-region, and you have given him 4%, then what else are we talking about? The other thing that has led us to this particular place, it has to do with the working the living conditions, the current economic difficulties. Okay, now, workers and particularly teachers, because of the negotiation now with it, every month or every year, they plan their budget. That this is how much I want to spend on lorry fare, this is how much I want to spend on food, this is how much I want to spend on my rent and all that. And in national security terms, we call it human security, which is an integral part of national security. Let me give you some few statistics here, and this thing we compiled this one at the end of April, which was articulated by the Secretary General Dr. Yalba during the May parade. He says that the price of water increased by 27.1%. Price of cereals and cereal products increased by 25%. Price of meat increased by 20.2%. Prices of fish and other seafood increased by 23.7%. Price of oils increased by 28.2%. Price of fruits increased by 22.1%. And the price of vegetables, tubers, plantains increased by 23.8%. This thing push workers into the poverty line. Push workers into the poverty line. These figures, we got it as of April 2022. And as the time that these figures were compiled, inflation was around 23 point something. This time around, we are talking about 27.6. That should tell us clearly that these figures have further been escalated as a result of the conditions I have just indicated to you. And it is also important for me to put these things on record. As a result of the new pension regime, the pension regime that we have the tier 1 and tier 2. These are compulsory, and we have other options that are not compulsory. Because of the current economic conditions, the pension, those voluntary pension investment, some workers have started going for it, because they have to be able to cope with the current conditions.
You mean withdrawing money?
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
You see, because these are things that we call the human security of pension. Because if the person cannot meet it, the person will certainly go for that money to level him make a living.
Okay.
Now, the danger there is this. Already, those people who are on pension now, I can tell you on authority, 90% of pensioners take below 2,000 Ghana cedis. And of that, even 60% take below 1,000 Ghana cedis. And even of the 60%, a significant of them take only 300 Ghana cedis.
Okay.
And so finally, this kind of money, when it is given to the teacher, it is a form of an investment in encouraging the worker to give of his or her best. You also meet his human security needs. That is what we are saying.
Okay.
And okay, I think the rest will take it up.
Yes. So Mr. Gamey, when you hear these compelling reasons for, and I think many people through the media, a lot of people empathize and almost agree to some extent that the Ghanaian worker needs to be cushioned. The question is now, based on the fact that we're going to the IMF and all the restrictions that imposes, when you look at it as a consultant from the government's perspective and also for the striking workers' perspective, what are your thoughts and what are maybe some of your recommendations that you might give both parties as they begin the negotiation next week?
Thank you, my sister, and thank you, my brother Musah in the studio. I appreciate the difficulties that both parties find themselves at this point in time. It's obvious that all of us, including our teachers, are facing some high level of hardships in the country today. Fortunately for all of us, the president himself has alluded to that. All the ministers of state have alluded to that. And generality of Ghanaians have accepted that there are hardships. And therefore, the teachers are not just cooking or making up anything. how to go about surmounting the difficulties and the challenges confronting the nation and indeed all of us is what is left. And that is a burden that the ministry in particular of employment and labor relations and that of finance and of course the economic management team will have to come together with the social partners, indeed not only the teachers as we sit here now. We all know that we have 1 week ultimatum on our heads that all other organizations would like to join. And of course, it's well known to everybody that as soon as the teachers are paid, it means others must equally be paid to bring about some equity. It is for this reason that we now have to move away from the silos that we have built. I would want to take only 20%, nothing more, nothing less. I cannot afford to give anything because of ABCD. That is yesterday's approach. Now both parties will have to go to the table, mindful of the fact that it is true that there is real hardship in the country. And at the same time, if we adjust to a certain level, the risks and the consequences that will be falling all of us will have to be put on the table. That is why it is important that full disclosure will have to be brought on board. What is it that is happening? How much money have we received, including grants? Because all is part of national income. How it has been disbursed. And where we will say we are sorry for any form of mismanagement, there is no need for anybody to have any feeling or sentiment about these things. Say it and damn the consequences. And confront the issue and look for alternative. Is there anything else the two of us can do to cushion the workers, at least for the time being, up to the end of the year, when hopefully we might be coming out from the doldrums, if it is possible, so that everybody will be clear in his mind as to what the consequences will be if we take 20%, if we take 15%, if we take 10%. If we don't take anything, what else can we do to cushion the workers? These are the things that will have to be discussed. It's not to be imposed upon one party. We won't give you anything, damn the consequences. We will take the 20%, damn the consequences. The employer must open up. That is what the labor law says in section 9, that have open discussion with your own workers. That is what it is. That is what the directive principles of state policy also says in the Constitution of Ghana. So let's feel free and have a good conversation, not debate, not argument, because somebody will lose the argument, somebody will win. And that is not what we want at this point in time.
Okay, so Mr. Musah, Mr. Gamey makes a point about going to the negotiation table with transient positions, meaning that with positions that we won't change, that we want 20% only. I know you certainly are not going to discuss negotiations here on the media, but the question is how flexible is and are your people when it comes to the 20%, and is there room for negotiation?
Well, thank you very much. And I think my senior brother, Gamey, I think I should have acknowledged him earlier. Forgive me. Good evening, my senior brother. The issue is this. We have not, I think he has articulated the issues. And at all the material time that we were invited, we attended. In fact, last week, Friday, I think it was around 7 o'clock that I saw the invite. And now we are to meet at the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations at 9:30. It means that I have only 2 hours, 30 minutes to be at the meeting. And I was somewhere else. That was on Friday. So I called. And I was told that, look, yes, we are meeting at the instance of the president. I said, no problem. In fact, I had to cut what I was doing and actually be at the meeting. And so that should tell you our commitment. And we've told them, if they call us morning, afternoon, evening, or night, holiday, Saturday, Sunday, we will come. And so on Friday, we all agreed. Now we will meet on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we will be there. So we go there with an open mind. we articulate our concerns, in particular the concerns of our members, and we normally make it clear that it is not about we the union leaders. I have already indicated it here, because if you look at it carefully, the thing started from the grassroots. And I also indicated that there is a historical antecedent of 4-7% matter that is already the workers were not happy with. So these things started from the grassroots with press conferences, social media, among other things, even giving a deadline of June, among other things. So we are open to discussion, and we hope that on Tuesday when we meet, all the issues that we started with on Friday, we will continue say on Tuesday, and we hope that we will come to they could be able to make a headway, and the workers will be okay, and government will be okay, and at the end of the day, we'll cushion workers out of the situation they found themselves. Yeah.
Is there anything you can tell us about the meeting on Friday?
Oh yes. When we met on Friday, I think the issues we have articulated them, that the Ghanaian worker is the least paid in the sub-region, the increasing in the cost of living, the difficulties of all the pension, all those things, we articulated them. And at the end of the day, there were 4 things that came up. Number one was that the government has taken notice of the demand of the 20% COLA. And I mean, taking notice of that by organized labor. The second issue is government commitment to ensure that all this you work engage organized labor to ensure that we find a lasting solution to this particular challenge. The third item was the call upon the teacher unions to for us to call off the strike, of which we indicated there that we will have to revert back to the various executives, and now we will get back to them after the executive have discussed and then taking the decision thereafter. Then the last one was our next meeting, which we'll be having next week Tuesday. So these were the 4 items that we discussed and decision taking on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. Gamey, I wanted to read to you parts of a statement by the Ghana Nurses and Midwives Association. They stated in a release that in 2014, a cost of living allowance of 10% of public sector basic salary was paid to workers to cushion us when things got tough due to high cost of living. In 2022, we find ourselves in a similar economic situation, and we expect nothing short of a similar stopgap measure to cushion the many nurses and midwives in the country. The question I have for you, Mr. Gamey, is with the benefit of your experience, what happened in 2014 that may be similar to what is going on now in 2022, and what lessons have we learned there that we could actually use during this particular situation now?
Yeah, once again, I acknowledge my brother there and your good self and our listeners. To be very honest with you, and I have to be very blunt, and with apologies to some of the people who hear what I'll be saying now. The reality is that this is not entirely new. Ghana was confronted by a similar situation before, albeit it's now a little more devastating. In 2014, 2015 in particular, when we crossed to about 70% of national income as taking care of wages and compensation, as well as interest payment, it became confrontational, and Ghana was going to suffer similar fate, even though we were not even at this level. The former president took a very hard decision and gathered virtually all, not some, the labor unions, expanded kind of meeting at home, and for 3 days or so, a lot of efforts were made, and extreme transparency was the order of the day. Everything, including grants that the government received, was accounted for at that forum. And after the former president spoke, the meeting, which was chaired by the late P.V. Obeng, and Mr. Setekpe, the finance minister, presented a comprehensive report. At the time, if you recall, UTAG was on the virtual neck of the government, and they called for caucus. And when we returned, there was complete consensus. And I recall in the middle of the presentation, the then Secretary General of the TUC exclaimed and said, "Why have you kept too long in bringing this information to our attention?" Look, it is incumbent. Now we have a Labor Act which the former government did not have the benefit of. You know, we have the challenge of ensuring that we are completely transparent in our communication, and honesty should be the order of the day. And we should not go engaging in argument and endless debate, because somebody will win the debate, somebody will lose the debate. Have a good conversation. Conversation in industrial relations defines the quality of the relationship between the employer and the workers. So that, just like husband and wife. So it is very, very critical that they go to this meeting with absolute transparency and share their heart out to the people. Then the workers are not oblivious of these things. They are all well articulated, as you can hear from my brother there. If there is any alternative, and if there is the 20% they are asking for, if you can't give because the risk associated with it can become untold, they should open it up. Is there any alternative? I think there are other alternatives. I have once upon a time chaired a lot of such meetings, and I can tell you there are several other options that are open. Once you have no option, it means you have a position. Position will lead to strike and will lead to troubles. Let's avoid that as much as we can. I have confidence in the Trade Union Congress and my colleagues in the teacher environment, the nurses. I work with them. That's why they said there is no strike on the table immediately. So I think that is very important that the gentlemen at the teaching fraternity, they suffered recently by holding their colleagues at bay. And so this thing that they have done is about the least they could do. And I'm happy they are open to talking it over with my colleagues at the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. They should be able to find a way out. If they need the help of all of us, we are in Ghana, we are part of Ghana, we shall support in any way possible.
Yes, I think I want to make a little contribution to this thing. In 2013, the country was in a difficulty, like my senior brother just said. And so at the time, the increment, the increment at the time, the 2013 was 13%. And so when we got to 2014, because of the ripple effect of the economic effect of the 2013, the question was, which way are we going? And so labor was called upon. You see, and this is where sometimes people must appreciate organized labor. That we are not as difficult that people perceive as, that we are there, sometimes create problems. So, no. The things normally emanate from the grassroots. So in 2014, guess what? We went in for 10% COLA. That COLA simply means that's the cost of living allowance. It has no effect on your pension. So the whole of 2014, there will be nothing like some kind of money that will be contributed towards your pension. So we went through the 2014 empty without that kind of compensation. So it was in 2015 that the 2013 that was existing in 2013 was restored in 2015, and the COLA was withdrawn. So it means that the same 2013 we had in the 13% we had in 2013, same was restored in 2015, and the COLA withdrawn. The 10% COLA given to us in 2014 was withdrawn. So the question is, did the worker win or did the worker lose? You will see that the worker lost big time. But despite all these things, we came along. So at any point in time when there are issues like this and we are talking, it is for the best interest of this particular country. Now look, any money we put into into the public sector, particularly the workers and teachers in particular, it is in the interest of the country to get the best out of it. After all, we were told recently by the World Bank Human Capital Index report that if care is not taken, 56% of our human capital index will go waste. Why? Because of the quality of education. So everything must be done to encourage the teachers so that they can stay in the classroom and give off their best. So based upon what happened 2013, 2014 and 2015, it is clear that workers lost big time. But we understood the situation and we worked with government to solve the problem. So if at this particular point in time we are saying we are talking about 20%, we are not asking anything so big. Look, we could have gone in for the wage opener clause. When you are negotiating, there is always an item called, there is always a phrase called wage opener clause, meaning that at any point in time that the situation or the prevailing condition that or the variables that inform the signing of the agreement, if the variables vary so significantly, the workers can come back and renegotiate. And that is the situation now we found ourselves. We could have gone in there and say, look, we are coming in through the wage opener clause. We didn't go there, because when you go there, it is more expensive. That is why we chose the other option of COLA. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I just wanted to, I know you mentioned the 4 things that were discussed on Friday, and one of it was a strike action. So I wanted to take the statement that was in the NLC press release, which was urging the unions to rescind the decision and discontinue the strike action to pave the way for the process for the engagement to ensue. And then, of course, yesterday, the president made a speech, and he also indicated that he was appealing to the unions to call off the strike pending negotiations. Have you had any second thoughts about calling off the negotiations calling off the strike pending the negotiations?
So thank you very much. With the greatest of respect to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo, I will not banter the statement that he has said. No, I will not engage in that, except to indicate that this issue came up on the Friday, during our Friday engagement, and same has been referred to our various executives. And I'm sure by Monday, because Friday we close late, same will be communicated to them. These issues will be discussed, and we will revert back to the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. So as it stands now, I don't think anybody will want to banter and all that. But for what I have said, we are engaging. Same will be communicated to the various leaders. The unions were there. They all heard it. These appeals were made. Assurances given. We are going to communicate to the various executives, and decision will be taken. The same will be communicated to the ministry, particularly the Honorable Minister Ignatius Bafwewa, because he articulated all these things. And so we took it up, and we have to go and communicate same to our principals, and whatever it is, we will revert. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Gamey, I know you've had the benefits, as I mentioned earlier, of looking at both parties and their posture. What do you think, or well, based on what Mr. Musah has said, do you think the unions are open to the options that you indicated earlier? I don't want to ask Mr. Musah directly. I wanted to ask you on, when you look at their posture going in, are they going in with the posture of people who are willing to negotiate on the 20%? Is that what you're seeing? Or they are going in with people who are firm on the 20%?
I don't know whether my friend Mr. Musah would like to answer it first, because he is in the saddle. I think there are options, because if you go to any negotiation, as in Section 97 of the Labour Act, you don't have to take an entrenched position. If it's 20% and it's given to them, what are the consequences? Will it help? If it's 10%, will it help? What are the consequences? Are there any risks involved? Is there anything else that could be given? I think there is. And so it's up to them. I don't know what they have up their sleeves. Maybe because of what you said, it appears there was no monetary thing considered by the employer at the time they met last Friday. And so they are now thinking through to see what could be done. If they have any clue, fine. Otherwise, then we can all, as people who live in Ghana and who face the same consequence, we can articulate our views. It will just be our views, not a position.
Okay, so Mr. Musah, let me phrase the question this way. What happens if the government is unwilling, or unable, I should say, to meet the 20% request? And if not, what will you accept as a sign of good faith from the government during the negotiations?
So thank you very much. Normally, when one party has articulated a position, the other party will have to also reciprocate. And so to the extent that I think there is a letter, I've seen a letter from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission inviting us on Tuesday. So we will be there. And until they table something, it will be difficult for us to comment on it. So when we have articulated what our expectation. So it is for them to come to the table and let us, and also tell them the side of the story. And it's because any figure you put on the table must come with a story. And our 20% also has a story behind it. We will tell our story, and they also tell their story. So at the table, those things will be discussed.
Okay, so you're going into the negotiations open?
Yes, yes, okay. Because like I'm saying, the 20% we are asking for has a story to it. And we get to the table, we're going to tell the 20% story. And whatever figure they are coming with, they should also come and tell their story.
Okay, so you mentioned the labor, the May Day statement, and read some figures from it earlier. I wanted to read to you some parts of the statement that was made. It was on May 1st. And this was the end, the tail end, when the General Secretary said, Mr. President, I would like to conclude with a very special request. Given the rising cost of living due to the high inflation, we would humbly appeal to you to use your executive powers to grant a cost of living allowance of at least 20% to all public service workers, including the armed forces, police service. So he goes on, and he says the COLA must be extended to all workers in the private sector who are earning the minimum wage of 13 cedis and 53 pesos per day, or 365 cedis per month, and on all pensioners on the SNP payroll who are receiving the minimum pension of 300 per month. Now, this is a bit different from what you're asking now, the COLA, because you're asking it across the board. So my question was, when this statement was made, or I know in the press we have seen where the unions have said we need the COLA. Has there been a formal request, a written request that was sent to government for consideration of the COLA? And yes. How long has the engagement been on this specific COLA issue? Oh,
just in May. Sorry, so May was in February.
Okay.
We started the whole thing in February. And I also remember clearly, before we had our labor conference at Kwewu, the 4 teacher unions wrote to the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. Then May also TUC wrote, and I think Forum also wrote later on. So there have been series of letters or correspondence to government regarding the need to cushion workers, like I have said, and based upon all the figures, the issues of the cost of living and all that. Now, at the end of May, it came to light that there was no response to all the issues workers were raising. And I've already indicated to you, workers felt that, look, you gave us 4% and 7%. Our leaders came to explain to us. And this time, instead of they felt that, look, let us start the action and let our leaders know that this time we won't allow them to start before they come and invite and tell us. So the deadline came. And if you recall that there was press conferences all over, social media, from region to region, from one region to another, telling the stories. Then at the end of June, we have no option than to be where we are today. So there have been series of letters asking for engagement and also indicating that the current economic situation is dire and that something ought to be done. Look, if you are taking 1,700 Ghana cedis, the time we negotiated in July, inflation was 9%. Inflation was 9%. In 2021 July, That was the time that we negotiated for these things. 1 year down the line, inflation is 27.6%. As of the time we're negotiating, cement was around 39-40 Ghana cedis. Today, it is about 66 Ghana cedis. Bread, water. I have mentioned all the figures here. Now, you see, the danger there is that I have told you already, when you are dealing with national security, there is a component of it which we call the human security. And the human security aspect forms what we call the things that have to do with the basic necessities of life. And these are things that when a worker or when a man cannot afford, could create a lot of problems. And I normally say that, look, let us not forget, it was because of water that Moses could not go to the promised land. Those who read the Bible will tell you. And aside that, even when the devil went to Jesus, he told Jesus to change the stone into bread. These are basic necessities, and they come with a lot of temptations. So the issue of communication started not today.
Mr. Gamey, I think you alluded to this in your beginning statements about the fact that the COLA has a ripple effect. Because looking at the statement from organized labor, they talk about all public sector workers, the police service, prison, immigration, fire, security. So the issue at stake really for the government is not only the 4 teachers union, right? It's what happens when it's granted to them and the ripple effect across all the public sector.
Let's be very honest here. At the moment, government as an employer is completely vulnerable. That is the reality of the day. And workers and their leadership, they are all vulnerable. Everybody is in trouble. Let's confront it. If they adjust and give 1% of the present pay they earn, just 1%, it will take us to another inflationary bracket. 2% will carry us somewhere. And we are talking about 20%. Yeah. It will trigger the inflation in a manner that the upheaval will not be different from Sri Lanka. Let's be very clear in our minds. And we must find an alternative which is risky for all of us, though, yet it might cushion in the long term than the present request that is being made. Now, the present request, if it's 2,000 and 20% of 2,000, will take you to about 400. 400 may not be enough money, but the present circumstance of government, the number of people who are earning 2,000 taking 400 is huge. Therefore, they will simply say they cannot afford it. That's what they may say. As they said, they've taken notice of it. Seeing the dynamics of the play of the game now, they would simply say they cannot afford. But what can be done? Is there a possibility of raising, because you have to borrow, they will borrow money to pay the 20% plus interest, because it's not their own money, plus interest. Therefore, the consequence is becoming aggravated. Now, so what else is possible? What I think is possible, and which will have long-term support for working people, is probably increasing the tax threshold to a certain level, which will not enable government to borrow money, but they might lose some money, but albeit not too much. Let's say maximum some 3.5% or so is lost through tax threshold upliftment. What it will mean is that everybody will have something into his pocket, including even yourself and private people. Everybody, because we all go to the same market. I'm also an employer. I'm mindful of that. So all I want to say is that we must go to the table with alternatives, with not a position. And I like what my brother said there, that they have a narrative behind the request they are making. The employer may have a narrative behind the request they are making. No ability to pay. The narrative is there. But something must give way. Mm-hmm. And that which must give way both of them must go articulate, including the suggestion I made. Mine is just a viewpoint. I am not pressing it down their throat, but the risk involved in all these things must be put on the table so that we all know if we do it, what to be the risk. If we don't do it, what to be the risk. If the people are crying, there will be extreme low productivity. Extreme low productivity. And you can't, then it will worsen the matter. So we really have to think through it and be very, very, very open to a conversation and not argument and debate.
Okay, I'm going to take some comments from viewers and listeners. Good evening. What is the GNAT Secretary General talking about? Aren't they aware of the current global economic downturn? Government workers were fully paid for almost a year during the COVID-19 era for no work done. They are being very ungrateful. That they should appreciate what government has done in the past. Call off the strike while negotiations proceed. So what do you say about the COVID-19 section that you guys were working with no work done? They were being paid with no work done.
You know something? People have consistently used this thing, and I've been talking about this thing. Look, the schools were closed down or locked down somewhere in March. When that happened, we did some kind of online work.
That's true.
You see, and these are things that we normally don't come into the public domain to talk about. And I remember quite clearly, aside that one, we were invited to the seat of government. And we engaged the president on how best we could help get the JHS3 and the SHS3s to write their final exam. We did abnormal work. It was no longer about the issue of the timetable. It is not about the issue of 8 hours or 10 hours. The issue is get the curriculum done. We got it done. We worked to make sure that the academic calendar came back on track. Look, my sister, it is important that people appreciate the kind of work we do. In the morning, a teacher is a teacher. From morning 7 a.m. to about 2:30, 3 o'clock, he's a teacher. From that time to about 8 o'clock, the teacher is a parent. In the night, when everybody is sleeping, the teacher is awake. Those of you who have your parents in the boat, go and check. 12 midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., the teachers are awake, moving from house to house. Because should anything happen in the school, the head of the teacher or the headmistress or the headmaster will be on the block. So they must ensure that not only are the students sleeping, they are where they should be. And there should be a watchman. And that's why we have the house mistress and the house masters in the schools. Aside that particular one, look, currently the contact hours, sorry, the working the time schedule for the time for the periods, formerly it was 45 minutes, now it is 1 hour.
So the changes and reforms that have occurred.
There have been changes. People go to school from 7 a.m. Some are closing. We now close at 2:30, among other things. Time will not permit me to go into details, and they must appreciate that we were not lazy about. We worked every day.
Okay, so if the president really said due to the hardships they have cut off their salaries by 30%, he should kindly show the pay slips before we trust the message. Please, I'd like to inform the General Secretary of GNAT that as they meet them tomorrow, they should not, and I repeat, no, they should not show some kind of mercy to this government. Government has downplayed teachers for so long, and this is from Martin Jibo Garu in the Upper East region. Good evening. Workers are really suffering. My president, Mr. President, teachers deserve better. And this is from K. Yeboah from Kumasi. Luckily for me, both guests admit the hardships since 2013. Why should these keep reoccurring as a nation? I'm not aware. The teachers have been considerable. They deserve more than 20%. I think they should be given the 20%. And this is from Johnson Benoduro, a pensioner. And he says, I'm not unaware of the country's economic situation, but the teachers must survive. And this is from good evening, panelists. on teacher unions workout, my question is, what is brought about the Kumi Preko demo, which just not. Okay, so the issue is simply those category of workers taking home 60,000 and above should have their salaries cut. Teachers who have taught 30 years are earning less than 3,000, and they cannot be cushioned. That's the question being asked. And Safio Moore says the issue of teacher unions on strike must be discussed to its logical conclusion now. The president told us a few months back that teachers don't expect to get rich on their chosen field. That simply doesn't mean that they should be treated as though their chosen profession is one of a curse. A stitch in time saves nine, goes a wise saying. I hear the seed of this strike was sown since February. Why did the government wait to engage now? Where is the money we are sitting on? And this is from Kipo in Tuna, Savannah region. Just a few more. GNAT is highly respected. Think again and help our children. Teachers had their salaries throughout the COVID-19 period. Consider what the behavior of NAGRAT especially. Mr. Musah, don't be like Kwame Alovi. I am Homeku Gilbert Glibly, a retired educationist. There's a big gap between cost of living and wages and salary. I think if the government may be possible to give COLA, then he should just give us a tax waivers. That goes to what Mr. Gamey was saying. And then wisdom from Ashanti Mampong. I would like to find out from our Honorable General Secretary, what about our legacy, arrears? And I think I'll just read a bit, one more, and then we'll go to our questions. The teachers are unfair. Another one about the coronavirus, and maybe a final one. Good evening, Madam Host. The structure of teachers' salary at this time is not capable enough to be abreast with the current economic challenges, and therefore something has to be done to cushion their financial. And this is from Amankwa of Russo. You know, we've talked a lot about the teachers, but there's children are also part of this whole equation, you know, because they are, I know teachers have a soft spot for their students and their children and those in the classrooms, but when these decisions are made, they are left hanging. Mr. Musah. Yes.
You know something,
yes,
my sister?
Mr. Musah.
You see, almost every time when there is an issue, we are the children will always become a reference point. And teachers, we are mindful, and that is why, as far back as February, we start raising this particular issue. And don't let us forget that at least we have about 3 parties that ensure the upbringing of the child. The teachers, we have our role to play. Government also has a role to play, likewise parents. That is why we call the PTA. It is not one person. And so if at any point in time, one party is having difficulty and the party raises that particular issue, it is only good that the other parties also will come in and appreciate the challenges the one party is going through, and together see how best they could help him. If one party consistently raises an issue, a concern, that is affecting his ability to perform, giving certain indicators and variables, and the response don't come, that is what will bring us to where we are today. So it is not only about teachers. We have the government there and we have the parents there. Let us together work on this thing. Don't let us push this particular burden on the teacher to appear like the teachers are so calm. It is because of these children that we always start saying, look, at the university level they have SRC. KG, they don't have SRC. The JHS, they don't have SRC. They don't have it. Look, I want to be frank with you. You think that if the SHS and their SRCs were to be strong like the universities, you think they wouldn't have been on the street by now? They would have been on the street by now.
But they're also dealing with the issues of the boarding houses, food shortages, and all that.
What I'm saying, they see, normally because we are dealing with children below the age of 18, they can't speak. You see, we always have to articulate all these concerns, assuming they were to be more than 18 years. And so we are here because the parties, at least the government side, that we expected that since as far back as February, when this thing started happening, when the concerns were coming, at least some kind of response could have actually set. And as far back as May, when the Secretary General raised this particular issue, at least some kind of response wouldn't have been here today. We are here because the response didn't come. And because the response didn't come, certainly we don't have any option. That is why we are here today.
So, Mr. Gamey, I wanted to ask you, are we seeing ourselves in a phase where the strikes are being used to get the attention? We saw that with UTAG. You know, the concerns are sent over and over again to the employer, and nothing happens. And it's only when they resort to the strike that they suddenly do get the response that they desire. Is that what we're seeing now, that although, you know, strikes should not take place when negotiations are ongoing or starting, that many of the unions are feeling that they don't have a choice, but they have to start it with a strike action to get attention?
Yes, if you, in this particular circumstance, I see the leaders haven't done a yeoman's job. Because if they were to let their guards down a little bit, the pressure that was brought from the grassroots upwards, it would have been unbearable. And they would have been kicked out themselves first before they start, rushing on them. The truth is this. Unfortunately, we have not yet started implementing our Labour Act properly yet. I heard some people who are calling for so-called amendment. I think they may have to revise their notes. It's very clear, and I was the chairman of the committee. Let me be very clear. It's put there that there must be proactivity. Employers, unions, both sides must be proactive. The union crying and crying and crying, for a better word, let me use the word crying. And it does appear we all went to sleep. And now the alarm bells started tolling. Ambulances were brought. And now here we are, emergency. So proactivity is not a figure of speech. It's an active thing that should be implemented, acted upon. They did not act upon it. Having said so, this is not a time for blame game. This is a time for solution. So I would implore all of them, they should go having a simple yet very deep-seated conversation. Let them brainstorm all the narratives they themselves have, generate various options, put on the table the risk factors that would enable them receive 20, 25%, 10%, 15%. What are the risks involved? Because we have crossed 75%, close to 80% plus threshold now, if our incapability as a nation to go on with life. That is why we rushed to the IMF. It was a bit too late. We should have gone a little bit earlier. So I think that, in fairness, I would like to join His Excellency the President to make a humble appeal that, in view of the circumstance in which we find ourselves, and also for our students who are preparing for exam, perhaps my colleagues would want to reconsider and engage them under section 127, which says that we should not be negotiating whilst on strike. We should not intimidate, because it's like the vulnerability of the employer is so severe that their hands are their back. They are finished. They have no choice than to give in to something if they want to survive. So to prevent that, maybe if they are open to having an honest conversation at the table on Tuesday, you may have to consider asking your members to maybe return to school whilst you engage them, so that you will not be unduly accused that you are trying to put pressure on them to give what they don't want to give. I appreciate I started following this thing because it's the work I do. since February, like you rightly said, and somebody should have talked. I have tried to bring to the attention of some people, but it does appear the pressure was too much on them. They could not bear it, and now they are forced under the circumstance to go to the table. Now that they have invited you and you are talking freely and openly, please, you may want to consider, maybe for the sake of our children and parents. Of course, you yourselves too are parents. Sometimes we forget. So I think that is important that you take a look at it and see what can be done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gamey. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talking Point. Our topic tonight is the Teacher Union's Walkout. And my guest in the studio with me is Mr. Thomas Musah. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. And via Zoom, we have Mr. Austin Gamey, a labor consultant. So, Mr. Musah, we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask the question about the situation of the COLA request. Do you appreciate the fact that if the government gives the 20% to the teachers union, the ripple effect that it would have may make it difficult for that 20% to be granted, because they'll have to look at all public sector workers? Is that something you're concerned about, or your focus is just the teachers union?
This has already been escalated. If you look at the letter written by the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations and subsequently that of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, it has been escalated to the organized labor level. And so we are no longer talking about the teacher unions, we are talking about organized labor. So that is where we've got into, and that is why the 4-point release talk about the fact that they acknowledge the demand of the 20% COLA by organized labor. So if you look at it, the word organized labor was used, and the second item also, organized labor, was used, talking about government willingness to engage to get it done, and also the invitation to Tuesday meeting at 2 p.m. and also the call on us to call on the strike, of which the president the president articulated, I think, on Saturday at the Independence Square, of which I said that one I wouldn't like to banter the president of the republic.
That's fine.
And that the matter has been referred to. On Monday we'll communicate that to the various executives. The various unions will do so.
So we're running out of time.
The decision
so I just
will be taken
to find
and
out if you have some quick closing remarks, 30 seconds, anything you want to say before we wrap up.
Okay. It must be appreciated that union leaders, we always have the nation at heart. We don't normally take decisions that will affect the nation. And I've already told you that in 2014, when we went for the COLA, that particular year, there was nothing given, there was no contribution to pension that particular year. And in 2015, it was the 13% that was restored. Workers lost big time, but we came along.
Okay.
Look, even during when we started with the single spine, look at the increment that came. Workers said no. We ensure now it was done. So at this particular point in time, given the economic variables that the issues we have mentioned, we are open for discussion. And 20%, it is in the best interest. And we want to assure each and everyone that any investment made in the public sector, it is in the interest of all of us.
Country. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gamey. Your final thoughts, please.
be very honest with you, if we are going to be talking about restoration, what the unions may be demanding will be a little more than even the 20%. They have done their best by tabling 20% consistently. However, the employer holds the key. They have the figures. Like I said from the word go, they have to be transparent and honest. This is not a time for respecting situations. Respect can be anything. But honesty is very key now, at this point in time, so that they can appreciate and empathize with government, at the same time empathizing with their members that they have responsibility for. And therefore, if they go to the table and open up and share information, this time not relevant information, total disclosure. Like I said somewhere yesterday, if you are a genuine husband and you hide things from your wife, she will overly demand from you. So full disclosure will be very important so that they can come to terms with the employer, who is government, to enable both parties to come to agreement and have a solution that satisfies both sides. Okay. For the workers may not have a total solution that may satisfy them. Nonetheless, they will have story to tell their members who will understand and appreciate the difficulties. Okay. I wish them the best of everything on Tuesday. Should they need our capability, our ability to support them, we have a program on vulnerability on Thursday and Friday. Okay. Whoever is interested can come over, and we will see what lessons we can learn from it. Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate the situation they find themselves in.
Thank you,
and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Gamey, and thank you all for joining us for tonight's Talking Point. Special thank you to my guests via Zoom. You just heard Mr. Austin Gamey, a labor consultant, and in the studio with me has been Mr. Thomas Musah, the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. I'm Dr. Anim-Wright, and this has been Talking Points. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us. As always, good night, good luck, and please be and take care. Till next week.